Have you ever felt just constantly on edge, like mentally exhausted or just completely physically drained, even when there's no obvious crisis happening in your life?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Right, like you're sitting on your couch, you're perfectly safe, the doors are locked, and yet, for some reason, your heart is just racing.
Exactly. Or, maybe it's the exact opposite for you.
Yeah.
You feel this really profound, heavy numbness,
Yeah.
like total detachment that you just cannot seem to shake no matter what you do.
Yes. And it's so frustrating because you're just sitting there and you think, why am I feeling this way?
Well, I mean, it's a remarkably common baseline for so many people right now.
Hmm.
They're functioning, they're going to work, they're answering emails, but they are just completely running on fumes.
Running on empty, yeah.
Right. And the most frustrating part for them is that they have absolutely no idea why their physiology feels like it's fighting a literal war that just isn't actually taking place.
It's wild. And I mean, when you try to figure it out, the internet just completely bombards you.
Oh, absolutely. It's overwhelming.
Social media is just flooded right now with these very clinical sounding wellness buzzwords.
Yeah, the jargon is everywhere.
Right. We're seeing things like vagus nerve reset or somatic breath work, neuroplasticity, and of course, the current favorite scapegoat, cortisol balance.
Right. Everyone loves to talk about cortisol right now.
It's everywhere. And everyone seems to be trying to sell you a supplement or like a green powder or some 30-second neck stretch to cure your fatigue.
Which, ironically, often becomes an additional source of stress.
Oh, for sure.
Because when your system is already that depleted, trying to navigate all this complex physiological jargon and competing marketing claims, it's just a recipe for further exhaustion.
Yeah, it's just too much.
It really is. It adds to the cognitive load of a brain that is already at absolute capacity.
So our mission for this deep dive today is to really cut straight through that wellness jargon.
I love that. Let's do it.
We are looking at a highly regarded framework developed by Dr. Ferris W. Corbett. They are a public health practitioner, a nurse, and a trauma-informed educator.
And the framework is just fantastic.
It really is. It completely reevaluates how we understand stress, trauma, and the whole nervous system.
Right.
So we're going to use this trauma-informed, evidence-based lens to figure out what these buzzwords actually mean on a cellular and neurological level.
Which is so needed right now.
And more importantly, we're going to look at how they practically apply to your daily life.
Yeah,
Because if you can't use it, what's the point?
exactly. And, the most valuable aspect of Dr. Corbett's approach is that it really forces us to step back from all the microtrends.
Right, the little biohacks.
Yeah, we have to stop looking at the hacks and examine the actual environment we're operating in. Like, before we can even talk about resetting a nerve or balancing a hormone, we have to establish the modern-day baseline.
Because the baseline for most of us is just relentless stimulation.
Relentless.
I mean, think about it. The emails, the news cycle, the notifications on your phone, financial pressure, it's just a continuous, unending stream of input.
It never stops.
It doesn't. And the crucial distinction that Dr. Corbett makes right out of the gate is that you are not just stressed.
Right.
The major takeaway is that your nervous system is fundamentally overwhelmed.
That distinction right there is the foundation of everything we're going to discuss today.
It changes everything.
It really does.
Mhm.
Because we have to look at the difference between a transient psychological stressor and what we call chronic allostatic load.
Okay, unpack that a little bit. Allostatic load.
Yeah, so for decades, society has basically treated stress as a psychological weakness,
Right.
like a mindset issue.
Oh, totally. Like it's just in your head.
Exactly. If you're anxious or if you can't sleep or you're emotionally reactive and snapping at your partner, the cultural narrative has always been, well, you just need to toughen up.
Just calm down.
Practice gratitude, change your attitude.
We treat it like a character flaw, like you just aren't trying hard enough to be calm, or you somehow lack discipline.
And that is the exact trap.
Mm.
From a trauma-informed perspective, if you're actually looking at the neurobiology of it, that cultural narrative is entirely backward.
Completely upside down.
Yeah. This isn't a mental weakness at all. It's a physiological reality. Your body is reacting as if it is under a literal physical life or death threat, even when you're just sitting in your living room.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, modern life has created this environment of constant emotional overload, and your biology is desperately trying to keep you alive.
So it's a survival mechanism.
Exactly. The constant anxiety, the mental fatigue, These are physical symptoms of a nervous system trying to process a volume of stimulation that the human brain never evolved to handle.
I really want to look at that physical threat aspect because we intuitively know what danger feels like,
Yeah.
right? Like, think about a smoke detector. It's designed to save your life if the house is actually burning down.
It has a very specific job.
Yeah. It's supposed to be deafening, it's supposed to be jarring, it's supposed to wake you out of a dead sleep and just flood your bloodstream with adrenaline so you can run out the door.
Exactly. It mobilizes you.
But what's happening to us in modern life is like having a smoke detector that blasts those exact same panic-inducing sirens, not because the house is on fire, but just because you burned a piece of toast.
Oh, that is such a good analogy.
Right. Or because you received like a vague Slack message from your manager that just says, let's chat later.
Which is terrifying in its own right, honestly.
Right. But the alarm is the same.
Yeah, the mechanism of the alarm itself is functioning perfectly. Like the speaker works, the sensor works.
It's doing its job.
It is. The problem is the calibration, which has been completely skewed by chronic exposure. And this ties back into that concept of allostatic load.
Right. The wear and tear.
Yes, the physical wear and tear on the body that accumulates as an individual is exposed to repeated or chronic stress.
Okay. So what is happening in the brain when that accumulates?
Well, when you're constantly bombarded by minor stressors, the amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center, it actually undergoes hypertrophy.
Wait, hypertrophy, like it physically gets bigger.
It physically enlarges, yes, and it becomes hyperreactive.
So the smoke detector is structurally changing to become more sensitive.
Exactly.
It's not just a software glitch, it's like a hardware upgrade that you didn't even ask for.
That is the mechanical truth of it. And understanding that physiological reality, I mean, it should be a profound relief for you listening.
It really should.
Because when you realize that your emotional reactivity or your brain fog or just your sheer exhaustion is not a character flaw, the shame really starts to dissipate.
You aren't failing.
No, you're not failing at life. Your biological system is working exactly as it was designed to work. It's deploying life-saving physiological resources like adrenaline, cortisol, redirected blood flow.
It's just deploying them at the wrong time.
Right. It's deploying them at the wrong time because the amygdala is so confused by the constant barrage of modern stimuli.
It's essentially an overachieving alarm system. Like it's doing its job way too well.
Way too well.
So if this is a physiological system that is misfiring, if the amygdala is sounding the alarm over burnt toast, we really need to pop the hood and look at the control room itself.
Let's do it.
Like, what is this system actually doing on a mechanical level?
Well, to understand the mechanics, we have to look at the nervous system, which acts as the body's ultimate command center.
Okay.
And according to Dr. Corbett's framework, this system operates on a continuous, never-ending loop. It is constantly subconsciously scanning the environment and asking one single question: am I safe?
Am I safe? Just over and over.
Over and over. This process is what Dr. Stephen Porges in his polyvagal theory calls neuroception.
Neuroception.
Yeah. And the key is that it happens entirely below our conscious awareness.
So it's not you looking around the room and thinking, yes, the door is locked, the stove is off, I am safe.
No conscious thought involved.
It's your nervous system doing background processing, like analyzing tone of voice, facial expressions, peripheral movements, even your internal body states.
Exactly. Neuroception is the body's internal surveillance system. And based on the answer to that question, am I safe, the nervous system toggles between its primary states.
Okay, so what are the states?
So first we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight response.
Right.
This is the state of mobilization.
Right, the gas pedal.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sympathetic adrenomedullary, or SAM axis, activates. Epinephrine and norepinephrine just flood your system.
That's the adrenaline.
Yeah. Your heart rate increases, your bronchioles dilate so you can take in more oxygen, your pupils dilate, and blood is actually shunted away from your digestive organs and pushed right into your skeletal muscles.
Because you don't need to digest lunch if you're running from a bear.
Exactly. You are biologically prepped for intense physical action.
And then theoretically, once the action is over and the threat is gone, we shift to the other side, right?
Right. Then we shift to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and restore or rest and digest response.
Okay.
And this is mediated largely by the vagus nerve. When this system is active, your heart rate slows down, your digestion turns back on, your immune system functions optimally, and your body really focuses on cellular repair and social connection.
So in a healthy, flexible system, we naturally oscillate between those two states.
Like a pendulum.
Right. A stressor appears like a car swerves into your lane on the highway, the sympathetic system kicks in, you jerk the steering wheel, and you survive.
It saves your life.
Yeah. And then the threat passes, and your parasympathetic system eventually brings your resting heart rate back down. The pendulum swings back and forth.
But here is the critical question. What happens when the stress never stops?
Right. What if the bear is always there?
Exactly. What happens when the threat isn't a swerving car, but a looming mortgage, an overflowing inbox, and a 247 global news cycle that literally lives in your pocket?
The pendulum gets stuck.
It gets completely stuck. And this brings us to a really critical concept in the source material, which is dysregulation.
Dysregulation.
Yeah, dysregulation means getting trapped in an extreme physiological state. And the framework breaks this down into two distinct types.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is hyperarousal. This is getting stuck in the on position.
The gas pedal is jammed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's characterized by chronic anxiety, panic, racing thoughts, and hypervigilance. The sympathetic nervous system is just locked in mobilization mode.
And I think most of us intuitively grasp hyperarousal. I mean, when we hear the word stress, we immediately picture the racing heart, the shallow breathing, the sheer inability to sit still.
It's the classic picture of stress.
Right. But Dr. Corbett's framework highlights the second type of dysregulation, which is hyperarousal. And this is where the conversation completely shifts for me.
It's a huge paradigm shift.
Because hyperarousal is characterized by shutdown, numbness, disconnection, just the feeling of being completely immobilized. So are you telling me that lying on the couch, staring blankly at the wall, and feeling totally detached from the world is actually also a stress response?
It is. And it goes even deeper than that when we look at the evolutionary biology of it.
Oh, wow. Okay, tell me more.
So polyvagal theory explains that the parasympathetic nervous system actually has two distinct pathways.
Okay.
We have the ventral vagal pathway, which handles our calm, socially engaged resting state.
The good kind of rest.
Right. But we also have the dorsal vagal pathway. And when a threat is so incredibly overwhelming that you cannot fight and you cannot flee, like when the sympathetic system realizes mobilization is useless, the dorsal vagal complex just takes over.
And what does it do?
It initiates a primal biological freeze response.
Like an opossum playing dead.
Precisely like that. The system literally shuts down to conserve energy, minimize pain, and basically play dead until the predator loses interest.
That is wild.
And in modern humans facing chronic inescapable stress, think of a toxic workplace or financial ruin or ongoing emotional trauma, this manifests as hyperarousal.
So the body thinks it's trapped.
Yes. Your heart rate might actually drop, your breathing becomes incredibly shallow, and you experience this profound emotional numbing and dissociation.
Man, that reframes so much of what people struggle with daily.
It really does.
Because if you are stuck in a state of hyperarousal, you probably think you are depressed, or honestly worse, you think you are just fundamentally lazy.
Oh, the guilt is huge.
You beat yourself up because you can't even get off the couch to do the dishes, or you feel completely emotionally checked out of your relationships. You just sit there thinking, what is wrong with me? Why don't I care about anything?
And of course, that self-blame just layers more stress onto the system.
Right, creating a vicious cycle.
Exactly. But once you understand the biology of dysregulation, that numbness makes perfect sense. You aren't lazy. Your command center, through neuroception, has determined that the environment is so overwhelmingly hostile that the safest possible physiological strategy is to shut down.
It is literally a protective biological freeze state.
It is.
It's like a circuit breaker tripping to save the house from an electrical fire. The power goes out and everything is dark and unresponsive, but it happened to prevent the entire system from combusting.
The circuit breaker is a highly accurate way to visualize it. The system has severed the connection to prevent a catastrophic overload.
So naturally, if the power is out, the next question is, how do we turn the circuit breaker back on?
Right.
Or if we're in hyperarousal, how do we quiet the screaming smoke detector? Because knowing we are stuck in dysregulation is one thing, actually getting out of it is another entirely.
It's the million-dollar question.
And if you spend 5 minutes on the internet, you'll be told that the answer is a vagus nerve reset.
Oh boy, yes.
You will see endless videos telling you to press a specific pressure point right behind your ear or twist your neck, and boom, instant zen. Your trauma is cured.
If only it were that simple.
Right. But the source material is very explicit about this claim, isn't it?
Extremely explicit. And we need to be categorically clear here. There is absolutely no such thing as an instant vagus nerve reset.
Say that again for the people in the back.
There is no instant reset. That is a myth born out of our culture's intense desire for immediate gratification and quick-fix biohacking.
We want the drive-through version of healing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you cannot undo years of chronic nervous system dysregulation. You cannot magically shrink a hypertrophied amygdala with a 30-second neck stretch. It doesn't work that way.
So what is the reality?
The reality is that there is no instant reset. There is only regulation over time.
Now, the vagus nerve itself is very real, right?
Right. Yes. Very real.
And it is the star of the show when it comes to the parasympathetic nervous system. It's cranial nerve 10, often called the wandering nerve, right?
Yes, that's it. It is the primary informational superhighway connecting your brainstem to your major organs, your heart, your lungs, your digestive tract.
It goes everywhere.
It wanders. But what is crucial to understand is that the vagus nerve is roughly 80% afferent.
Afferent. Okay, what does that mean?
That means 80% of its nerve fibers are dedicated to carrying sensory information from the body up to the brain, rather than the brain sending commands down to the body.
Oh, wow. So it's mostly a bottom-up system.
Exactly. It is the physical pathway that reports the state of your internal organs back to your command center.
So the goal of supporting the vagus nerve is actually biologically sound. We do want to send signals of safety up that highway.
Yes, the goal is correct.
But the aggressive methods social media is selling, the forceful hacks, those are flawed.
Deeply flawed. The framework highlights a really foundational trauma-informed principle. Safety, not force, is what calms the body.
Safety, not force. I like that.
Think about the physiological reality of someone in a full-blown panic state.
Mm-hmm.
If you are terrified and someone grabs your shoulders, shakes you, and yells, "Calm down, just relax." Right, what happens to your internal state?
Oh my gosh. My sympathetic nervous system would go into absolute overdrive.
Right.
It makes me want to fight them or run away immediately. It just adds more pressure and threat to the environment.
Right. And yet, that is exactly how we treat our own nervous systems.
Wow. We yell at ourselves to calm down.
We try to forcefully hack our way back to calm. We aggressively try to muscle our bodies out of a stress state, which the brain just interprets as another form of attack.
So we are sending distress signals to the command center while demanding that it feels safe.
Exactly. It's a massive contradiction.
It's not a light switch you can just violently flick off when you're panicked.
No, not at all.
It's more like a thermostat that you have to gently adjust. Like you don't just bash the thermostat with a hammer to make the room colder.
I love that.
You turn the dial, degree by degree, and then you wait for the ambient temperature of the room to slowly change.
You are adjusting the ambient temperature of your neurobiology. And the way we support the vagus nerve, the way we actually turn that dial, is through gentle, consistent practices that utilize those afferent nerve fibers to send biological signals of safety.
Okay, what kind of practices?
Well, the framework points to several concrete somatic examples. Slow breathing, humming, splashing cold water on the face, and physical grounding.
Okay, I really want to push back on this a little, or rather, I want to dig into the actual cellular mechanics of it.
Sure.
Because when I first heard someone suggest humming as a tool for acute anxiety, I was extremely skeptical.
It sounds a bit woo-woo.
It does. You're telling me that making a vibrating sound in my throat is going to stop a systemic cascade of adrenaline? Like, how does that actually work at a biological level?
I know, right? It sounds completely absurd.
Yeah.
But until you actually look at the anatomy of it, it makes perfect sense.
Okay, break it down for me.
The vagus nerve descends from the brainstem and passes right by the vocal cords and the muscles of the pharynx in your neck.
Oh, really? Right past them?
Right past them. So when you hum, sing, or chant, you are creating a physical mechanical vibration in those specific structures. That vibration essentially massages and stimulates the vagus nerve. And because those afferent fibers are listening to the body, that physical stimulation sends a bottom-up data packet to the brainstem.
What does the data packet say?
It translates to, hey, we have the time, the safety, and the respiratory control to produce this steady resonant sound right now. We must not be running from a predator.
Oh my goodness. So you are utilizing the physical architecture of the nerve to send a fake but effective safety report to the brain.
Exactly. It's a physiological loophole.
That is brilliant. And what about splashing cold water on the face? I know people swear by the ice water plunge for anxiety.
Oh, that one is fascinating. That taps into a deeply ingrained evolutionary mechanism called the mammalian dive reflex.
The mammalian dive reflex.
Yeah, this reflex is present in all marine mammals, and humans have actually retained it.
Really? Like a seal or a dolphin?
Just like that.
Yeah.
When you suddenly expose your face, specifically the areas around the eyes and cheeks, which are innervated by the trigeminal nerve to very cold water, it triggers a rapid physiological override.
Okay, how?
The trigeminal nerve signals the brainstem, which then strangely activates the vagus nerve.
And what does the vagus nerve do in that exact moment?
It instantly initiates bradycardia, which is a rapid slowing of the heart rate.
Wow.
It also causes peripheral vasoconstriction. That means it shifts blood flow away from the limbs and into the core to conserve oxygen, because the body literally thinks you are diving underwater.
So it's preparing you to hold your breath underwater.
Yes. And this powerful parasympathetic response directly interrupts and overrides the sympathetic nervous system's command to pump blood to the limbs for a fight-or-flight response.
So it forces the system to stop fighting.
Right. It's a very rapid way to break a panic cycle, but again, it's a physiological intervention. It is not a mental exercise.
I really want you, the listener, to just pause and reflect on this for a second. Notice how often you try to force yourself to calm down through sheer willpower and logic alone.
We all do it.
We do. How many times have you laid in bed at 2 in the morning, your heart is pounding, your mind is racing through worst-case scenarios, and you literally think to yourself, go to sleep. Stop worrying. You are fine. Just relax.
Just turn off your brain.
Right. You are trying to logic your way out of a physiological alarm, and it never, ever works.
No, it fails because of how the brain actually routes information during a threat.
Tell me about that.
Well, the framework emphasizes a really profound truth. You cannot think your way out of stress.
You cannot think your way out of stress.
Right. When the amygdala detects a threat, even a perceived one, like a stressful email, it essentially hijacks the brain. The thalamus, which is the brain's sensory relay station, routes information directly to the amygdala before it even reaches the prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex is the logical, rational, problem-solving part of the brain right behind our foreheads, right?
Exactly. So when the body's in full fight-or-flight mode, the prefrontal cortex is essentially bypassed to save time.
Because thinking takes too long.
Exactly. Your biology doesn't want you to sit around philosophizing about the tiger in the bushes, weighing the pros and cons of running. It just wants you to run.
Action over analysis.
Right. So the blood flow and metabolic energy are diverted away from the higher executive functions and pushed right into the primitive survival centers.
Wow.
So trying to use logic or affirmations or positive thinking to stop a panic attack is like trying to change the channel with a remote control when the television is physically unplugged from the wall. The signal is simply not reaching the hardware.
The TV is unplugged. That captures the sheer futility of it so perfectly.
It really does.
And this brings us to the somatic solution. If trauma and stress are stored in the body, if the adrenaline is physically in the blood, the tension is in the fascia, the shallow breathing is in the diaphragm, then the healing must begin in the body.
Yes. Soma meaning body.
Right. But Western culture has this long history of severing the mind from the body, treating the body like it's just this meat vehicle carrying our brilliant brains around.
Yeah, the mind-body split.
But the nervous system is a completely integrated full-body network. You cannot separate the cognitive experience of stress from the physiological reality of it. To reconnect them, we have to use somatic practices, breath, movement, and physical awareness.
That is the only way back in.
I see the biological necessity of it, but how does that actually play out when someone is mid-panic?
Good question.
Because I have to admit, when my mind is racing with a million legitimate worries, my inbox is overflowing, I have a massive presentation, my bank account is low, taking a time out to focus on my breathing or doing a grounding exercise feels completely counterintuitive.
It feels wrong.
It almost feels irresponsible. I feel like I need to solve the problems in my head first, not sit there and hum. Taking deep breaths feels like ignoring the fire.
I hear that all the time. But that is the exact cognitive trap that keeps the system dysregulated.
Really?
Yes. Your brain is utterly convinced that ruminating and worrying is problem solving. It feels productive.
It does feel productive.
But the biological reality is that you cannot effectively solve complex, nuanced problems while your nervous system's hijacked. You literally do not have full metabolic access to the prefrontal cortex.
Because the TV is unplugged.
Yes, you're trying to do high-level math on a calculator with a dying battery. The somatic practices are not about ignoring the fire. They are about plugging the calculator back in so you can actually figure out how to put the fire out.
Okay, let's make this highly practical for the listener. The source material mentions the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method, box breathing, and progressive relaxation.
Yes, great tools.
So let's say you are sitting in a conference room. Your boss just heavily criticized your project in front of the entire team.
Oh, brutal.
Your heart is pounding, your face is flushing red, your chest is tight, you are entering acute hyperarousal. But you cannot just sprint out of the room or plunge your face into a bowl of ice water in the middle of a meeting.
No, you can't.
So what do you do?
In that precise moment, you stop trying to logically convince yourself that your boss is wrong or that your career isn't over. You abandon the narrative entirely and go straight to the physical data.
Okay.
You could use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method right there in your chair, silently. You look around the room and intentionally name 5 things you can see.
5 things, like what?
Like the grain of the conference table, the projector lens, a blue coffee cup, a pen, the hinge of the door, anything mundane.
And what is that actually doing neurologically?
Well, anxiety and panic live in the future.
Mm-hmm.
They're the anticipation of pain. Trauma lives in the past. But your physical senses only operate in the present millisecond.
Oh, that's powerful.
By forcing your brain to process highly specific, mundane visual data, you are anchoring the sensory cortex in the present moment.
So it brings you back to right now, and then you continue down the senses, 4 things you can physically feel.
Yes. The pressure of your feet against the floorboards, the exact texture of the fabric on your chair, the temperature of the air on your forearms, the weight of your watch on your wrist. Then 3 things you can hear. The hum of the HVAC system, the traffic outside, someone typing. 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste.
It sounds so remarkably simple, almost like child's play.
It does, but you are essentially flooding the command center with massive data packets of boring, non-threatening information.
You are manually overriding the amygdala's alarm system with physical evidence of safety.
Exactly. You're telling the neuroceptive system, look at all this mundane sensory input. We are just sitting in a mildly warm room, listening to an HVAC unit. There is no immediate physical threat requiring mobilization.
And what about box breathing? How does manipulating the lungs change the brain?
Box breathing, which is inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, is a direct mechanical manipulation of the vagus nerve.
Okay, how?
When you are in fight or flight, your breathing is naturally rapid, shallow, and focused in the upper chest. By intentionally engaging the diaphragm and, most importantly, slowing the exhalation, you are leveraging respiratory sinus arrhythmia.
Respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Unpack that for us.
Sure. It is the natural variation in heart rate that occurs during a breathing cycle. When you inhale, sympathetic activity slightly increases,
Yeah.
and your heart rate actually speeds up to circulate oxygenated blood.
Okay, so inhale is the gas pedal.
Right. But when you exhale, parasympathetic activity increases. The vagus nerve releases acetylcholine onto the heart's pacemaker cells, and your heart rate slows down.
So exhale is the brake.
Exactly. By artificially extending the exhale and the holds and box breathing, you are maximizing that vagal brake. You are reverse engineering the physiological state of calm.
I really want to emphasize what you just explained because it shifts the entire perspective. These somatic tools are not just relaxing activities.
Yeah, not at all.
This isn't self-care fluff or a spa day. These are highly targeted mechanical interventions designed to communicate with your biology in the only language it understands when it is panicked. Physical sensation.
That is a perfect summary. And once the body receives and processes those physical safety signals, the parasympathetic nervous system engages. The vagal brake is applied.
And then what happens in the brain?
Blood flow begins to return to the prefrontal cortex. The TV is plugged back in. And it is only then, when the cognitive hardware is back online, that the real long-term work of rewiring the brain can actually happen.
Which leads us perfectly into the next layer of this framework. Neuroplasticity and rewiring the alarm system.
Right.
We have established how to quiet the acute alarm in the moment using a somatic tool. But the ultimate goal is to stop the amygdala from being so wildly hypersensitive in the first place.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. We want to change the baseline.
So Dr. Corbett's framework brings up neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to structurally change and reorganize itself. But there's a significant catch mentioned in the source material regarding neuroplasticity and stress.
Yes, the crucial caveat is that neuroplasticity is entirely neutral.
Meaning it's not always positive.
Right. It is not inherently good or bad. It is simply the biological mechanism of adaptation. Hebbian theory states that neurons that fire together wire together.
Fire together, wire together.
Yeah. The brain structurally reinforces whatever pathways it uses most frequently, while pruning away the pathways it ignores.
Okay, so what's the catch?
The catch is that chronic stress powerfully and efficiently reinforces negative, highly reactive neural pathways.
I always visualize this process like walking through a vast, snowy field.
Oh, I like this analogy.
Yeah, so if you walk the exact same path through the snow every single day, you pack the snow down tight, you carve a really deep, smooth, easy groove.
Right.
So when you step into the field the next time, your feet automatically fall into that rut because it is just the path of least resistance.
Yep.
Chronic stress, rumination, and anxiety have carved incredibly deep, highly efficient grooves in our brains. The myelin sheath surrounding those specific neurons has thickened, making the stress signal travel faster.
It becomes a superhighway.
Exactly. So we automatically fall into catastrophic thinking or panic because that neural pathway has become a superhighway.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the physics of neuroplasticity. That deep groove in the snow is your habitual default stress response. It requires zero conscious effort to fall into it.
Right. It's automatic.
To change it to actually heal your nervous system, you have to actively interrupt that automatic pattern.
Yeah.
You have to consciously choose to step out of the rut and forcefully trudge through the fresh, knee-deep snow to create a completely new path.
And anyone who has ever walked in deep snow knows it is exhausting.
It's a workout.
It takes immense cognitive and metabolic energy to not walk in the easy rut.
It is exhausting, which is why the framework stresses that healing requires repetition, profound awareness, and intentional change.
So how do we actually do that?
Well, this is where cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT-informed strategies, integrate with the somatic work.
Yeah.
Once the somatic tools have brought the prefrontal cortex back online, you have to use that cognitive power for thought reframing and pattern interruption. You have to catch yourself falling into the snowy rut, stop the momentum, and intentionally redirect the neural firing.
Let's ground this in a real-world example. How does someone actually execute a pattern interruption?
Okay, let's imagine your partner walks through the front door after work, drops their bags, and sighs heavily.
Okay, classic scenario.
Your automatic, deeply grooved neural pathway, your hyperarousal and your hypertrophied amygdala instantly translates that sound into a threat.
Right.
The thought fires. They're mad at me. I did something wrong. We're going to have a massive fight. Your heart rate spikes. You are in the snowy rut.
And that happens in a fraction of a millisecond.
Exactly. Pattern interruption means cultivating the meta-awareness to catch that specific thought as it is happening. You feel the physiological spike, but you pause.
You interrupt the cycle.
Yes. You might use a somatic tool in that split second, taking one deep diaphragmatic breath to maintain the vagal brake and keep the prefrontal cortex engaged.
Okay.
And then you intentionally reframe the thought. You engage top-down regulation and tell yourself, they might just be exhausted from sitting in traffic for an hour. I will simply ask them how their day was before I assume my safety is threatened.
So you are forcing your brain to step out of the rut and walk in the fresh snow. Maybe it's just traffic.
Yes. And the reality is the first dozen times you do it, it feels clunky.
Oh, I'm sure it feels totally fake.
It feels artificial and forced. Your body still feels anxious because the adrenaline has already been released. But the magic of neuroplasticity is that if you do it tomorrow and the next day and the next month, you are stimulating the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Yeah, you are physically building new synaptic connections. Eventually, you pack down a new path in the snow. The new path, the response of curiosity rather than panic, becomes the default. But as the source material explicitly states, healing is not instant, it is practiced.
Healing is practiced. It is a daily, relentless repetition.
It's hard work.
And I think it is so vital for you, the listener, to internalize this. Do not feel discouraged if you try a somatic grounding exercise or you successfully reframe a catastrophic thought and you do not feel 100% perfectly calm immediately.
You won't.
You are quite literally remodeling the physical microarchitecture of your brain. That takes time and metabolic resources. You wouldn't go to the gym, lift weights once, and expect to double your muscle mass by the evening.
Exactly.
You cannot do one session of box breathing and expect to erase a decade of chronic allostatic load.
It requires a long-term perspective, patience, and immense self-compassion.
Yeah.
You are essentially remodeling a house while you are still living inside it.
But speaking of the gym and our cultural obsession with immediate, effortless results, we have to address the elephant in the room.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
We have established that regulating the nervous system is slow, it's practiced, and requires intentional daily repetition. But the wellness industry absolutely hates that answer.
They despise it.
We want a magic pill. We want a biohack. Which brings us to the internet's favorite scapegoat for all of our modern suffering, cortisol.
Ah, yes. The absolute demonization of cortisol.
If you spend any time reading about stress online right now, cortisol is blamed for every single human ailment.
It really is.
Weight gain, profound fatigue, anxiety, brain fog, bad skin, insomnia, you name it, cortisol is the villain. And conveniently, the solution being heavily marketed is always a product.
Always.
A proprietary green powder, an expensive adaptogen supplement, the famous cortisol cocktail that promises to instantly balance your hormones and cure your exhaustion.
This is a critical area where Dr. Corbett's framework just completely cuts through the marketing noise with basic human biology. The source material states this unequivocally. Cortisol is not the enemy. Chronic stress is the enemy.
Look at the cellular level of that distinction. Because people genuinely believe cortisol is a toxic poison circulating in their bloodstream.
Well, if we look at the actual endocrinology, the HPA axis, that's the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands, controls the release of cortisol.
Okay.
Cortisol is a glucocorticoid. It is absolutely essential for human life. It is not a poison. It is a vital metabolic hormone.
So we need it.
Desperately.
Yeah.
One of its primary functions is regulating your sleep-wake cycle through the cortisol awakening response. It peaks in the morning to pull you out of sleep, increase your blood pressure to a functional level, and mobilize stored glucose into your bloodstream so your brain and muscles have the actual energy to get out of bed and face the day.
So it's basically your internal cup of coffee.
Exactly. Without cortisol, you would be utterly incapacitated. The hormone itself is doing exactly what it evolved to do.
So if cortisol is just doing its job, where does the system break down? Why is everyone feeling so terrible?
The breakdown happens because of the chronic, unrelenting release of it. Going back to the HPA axis, while the sympathetic nervous system uses adrenaline for immediate, short-term action, the HPA axis releases cortisol for sustained, long-term stress.
Okay.
When your nervous system is stuck in dysregulation, constantly perceiving threats in emails and traffic jams, the HPA axis never shuts off. It pumps out cortisol continuously.
And what does that constant flooding do to the body?
Since cortisol's job is to mobilize glucose for energy, chronic high cortisol means your blood sugar is constantly elevated.
Yikes.
Yeah. This leads to insulin resistance, widespread systemic inflammation, and the suppression of the immune system and digestive tract. Furthermore, chronic exposure to high cortisol actually shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning.
Wait, it shrinks the hippocampus?
Yes, while simultaneously enlarging the amygdala.
That is terrifying.
So that too much stress, that constant flooding of the system, is the root cause of the poor sleep, the profound fatigue, and the physical breakdown.
So trying to kill or block your cortisol with an expensive supplement is totally missing the point. It's treating a perfectly functional biological response as a disease rather than addressing the environment causing the response.
Precisely. The source explicitly shuts down the idea of a magic cortisol cocktail. There is no powder, no juice, and no pill you can ingest that will convince your central nervous system that it is safe if you are still living a perpetually dysregulated, hyperstimulated life.
Okay, but then what is the actual biological solution? According to Dr. Corbett's framework, the real solution lies in ruthless consistency with the basics: sleep, nutrition, and movement.
The basics.
Now, I can practically hear the collective groan from the audience right now.
Oh, the resistance to the basics is universal.
It is, because sleep, nutrition, and movement sounds so profoundly boring. People want a complex, scientifically advanced protocol. They want to be told they have a unique, rare hormonal imbalance that requires a specialized proprietary blend of exotic herbs.
Exactly.
They do not want to be told to put their smartphone in another room, go to bed at 10 p.m., eat a piece of broccoli, and go for a 20-minute walk. When you are severely fatigued, being told to focus on the basics feels almost insulting.
It feels dismissive when you are deeply exhausted, because executing the basics actually requires behavioral effort and discipline, whereas swallowing a pill does not.
Right.
But what's fascinating here is how we completely misunderstand the science of the basics. We tend to view sleep, nutrition, and movement as the beginner level of health, the elementary school stuff, while viewing supplements, ice baths, and complex biohacking as the advanced elite level.
Yeah, that's exactly how we see it.
But from a trauma-informed neurobiological perspective, it is the exact opposite.
I see the connection, but how does that actually play out? Why are the basics the advanced level?
Because the basics are the biological foundation of nervous system regulation. Let's look at sleep. Consistent deep sleep is not just resting.
Okay.
During slow-wave sleep, your brain activates the glymphatic system. The glial cells in your brain literally shrink, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash through the neural tissue and clear out metabolic waste products like amyloid beta, which accumulate during waking hours.
So your brain is essentially washing itself.
Yes, if you are not sleeping, your brain is physically marinating in neurotoxins. No supplement can replicate the glymphatic system.
That is incredible. And nutrition. How does eating a vegetable communicate safety to the nervous system?
We have to look at the gut-brain axis. The enteric nervous system in your gut is intimately connected to the brain via the vagus nerve.
Okay.
Roughly 90% of your body's serotonin and 50% of its dopamine are actually synthesized in the gut microbiome.
Wow, 90%.
Yes. Consistent, nutrient-dense food supports microbial diversity, which directly improves vagal tone. Furthermore, eating regularly signals to your primal brain that you are not in a famine, which is a massive fundamental safety signal to the neuroceptive system.
In movement, I assume we aren't talking about running ultramarathons, just basic movement.
Exactly, gentle movement. When your sympathetic nervous system is triggered by an email, it dumps adrenaline and glucose into your blood to help you run.
Right.
But you don't run, you just sit rigidly at your desk. That unspent chemical energy creates severe internal tension and anxiety. Walking, stretching, or gentle movement metabolizes those excess catecholamines, completing the biological stress cycle and signaling to the body that the threat has been successfully navigated.
So they aren't just healthy habits you should do because a doctor said so. They are the most powerful, highly advanced communication tools you possess to talk to your command center.
Yes, you cannot out-supplement a chronically dysregulated nervous system.
You just can't.
If you were sleeping 4 hours a night, drinking 6 cups of coffee to force the HPA axis to pump out more cortisol, eating highly processed foods that inflame the gut, and sitting rigidly in front of a screen for 12 hours, your biology believes it is fighting a literal war.
And no powder can fix that.
No amount of cortisol cocktail will override that neurobiological reality. Consistency with the basics is how you prove to your body at a cellular level day after day that it is safe.
That is such a powerful reframe. The basics aren't boring. They're the most potent biological safety signals we have.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the culmination of all this. We are looking at the integration of these concepts, shifting the relationship we have with ourselves from an adversary to an ally. When we pull all of these physiological threads together, the vagal tone, the somatic grounding, the neuroplasticity of the amygdala, the glymphatic system, we are fundamentally changing how we view our own bodies.
And this is where the trauma-informed lens of Dr. Corbett's framework proves its true value. The core message that we must integrate is this: you are not weak. You are not failing at life. Your system has simply been asked to process an impossible load, and it has become overwhelmed.
I really want you, the listener, to take a slow, diaphragmatic breath right now and let that sink in. Think about how much time and energy you spend being fiercely angry at your own body.
It's exhausting.
You get intensely frustrated when you have a panic attack before a meeting. You get mad at yourself for needing a nap on a Saturday. You feel deep shame that you can't just handle it like everyone else on social media seemingly can. We are locked in a constant, bitter war with our own biology.
And that war is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of physiology. Most people view their anxiety, their hypervigilance, or their profound fatigue as a betrayal, like my body is failing me.
Right.
But the paradigm shift here is realizing that your body has been doing exactly what evolutionary biology designed it to do. It has been fiercely, over-enthusiastically trying to protect your life.
Protect you.
Yes. Your anxiety is your amygdala trying to keep you alert to danger so you don't die. Your fatigue and numbness is your dorsal vagal complex forcing you to rest and conserve energy because it thinks you are running out of resources.
It is so incredibly liberating to look at it that way. The true aha moment is looking in the mirror and realizing my body isn't broken, it's just working overtime to keep me safe. It is so committed to my survival that it is willing to shut my conscious mind down to protect the hardware.
Yes. And when you finally internalize that, you replace frustration with profound compassion. You stop fighting the protective mechanisms and you start working with the system. You become an ally to your nervous system instead of a hostile adversary.
And the framework is clear. You don't begin this alliance with a massive, stressful life overhaul. You start incredibly small.
You focus on micro moments. Breathe intentionally using the diaphragm. Check in with your physical senses. Slow the exhalation down.
That is the work. It's not about achieving a state of permanent, perfect Zen because that doesn't exist.
Right.
It's about creating small, frequent moments of safety throughout your day. Taking a single intentional box breath before you open a stressful email to keep the vagal brake engaged. Taking 30 seconds to feel the texture of your chair and the floor beneath your feet when you notice your heart rate spiking.
Choosing to prioritize the glymphatic system by going to bed 30 minutes earlier. These tiny biological inputs accumulate.
It's adding one snowflake at a time to the fresh path, slowly packing down a new neural groove.
Exactly. You are patiently teaching your body a new language of safety, one sensory input at a time.
I think that is a beautiful, grounded place to begin wrapping up our deep dive today. This framework from Dr. Ferris W. Corbett is just completely perspective shifting, taking us out of the wellness marketing and back into our actual biology. But before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a specific provocative question to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've talked extensively about the nervous system constantly scanning and asking, am I safe? And the hypertrophied amygdala sounding the alarm over burnt toast. So here's my question for you to explore on your own today. If your nervous system is currently stuck in a dysregulated loop, constantly scanning the environment for threats, what is one completely harmless thing in your daily routine? Maybe it's the ping of a specific group chat. Maybe it's a messy pitch encounter. Maybe it's a minor delay at a stoplight that your body is currently treating like a literal life or death predator.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And more importantly, the next time that specific trigger happens, how can you use one of the somatic tools we discussed today? A prolonged exhale, the 5-4-3-2-1 visual grounding, or even humming to send a direct physical data packet to your brainstem, teaching it that you are, in fact, totally safe.
It is a vital question to ask, because identifying the false alarms is the very first step toward rewiring the circuit.
Exactly. I want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into understanding your own incredibly complex, beautifully protective nervous system. We wish you immense self-compassion on your ongoing process of healing because, as we've learned today, it is a daily practice, not a destination. Take care of your mind, take care of your body, and we will see you on the next deep dive.